This is my first time I haven't been in the playoffs, man. So gotta do what's best for me and my family, dog. If that's here, or if that's wherever the case may be, man. I'm finna open that door for myself, dog. I'm out, bro.
Dolphins star wide receiver Tyreek Hill has officially requested a trade out of Miami after missing the playoffs in 2024 and having the worst season of his career since 2019 when he missed 4 games. What does the future hold for the 30-year-old wide receiver in the Miami Dolphins? Subscribe to my channel. We're on the road to 10K in 2025. You're here already. It takes 5 seconds. It's free, and you might as well help support the channel. 69% of you nice who watch my videos are not subscribed, so go ahead, make sure you're subscribed. And with that, let's get into this Tyreek Hill drama. 2024 was a down year for the Dolphins wide receiver Tyreek Hill, who is coming off back-to-back seasons with 1,700 receiving yards with the Dolphins. Last season, Tyreek Hill led the league in receiving yards with nearly 1,800 yards. He was like 1 yard away from 1,800, and he was voted the #1 player on the NFL's top 100 list, which is something NFL players vote on. And these NFL top 100 lists are typically biased towards players and isn't usually the best set of names, but it's an accomplishment, and his peers voted him as the best player of 2023. And statistically, when you look at Tyreek Hill's time with the Dolphins, it's been really the best 2 years of his career. In 2022 and 2023, had 119 catches, both 1,700 yards. Last season, he had 13 touchdowns, 7 touchdowns his first year with the Dolphins. And the closest he came to these numbers with the Chiefs was 1,400 yards. So he's been playing his best football of his career since he came into the NFL with the Miami Dolphins, which is crazy to think considering that Tua Tagovailoa is the quarterback that he's been his best at when he had Patrick Mahomes throwing him the football. Like, that's pretty crazy to think about. But this season for Tyreek Hill, that wasn't the case, and he had a down season. Tyreek Hill throughout the whole season was dealing with some injuries in his wrist, but that didn't prevent him from playing. When you look at the games he played this season, he played every single game in 2024 and only had 81 catches for 959 yards with 6 touchdowns. And you have to date back all the way to 2019 to find a season worse than this one. But at least in 2019, he missed like 4 games. This season, he played every single game and had a hard time finding consistency in production. Now, of course, some of the lack of production from Tyreek Hill this season was due to the fact that his quarterback Tua Tagovailoa missed 6 games this season, and obviously having the quarterback that your franchise and your organization is paying a lot of money to start and be your quarterback, when he's missing, players are going to have a drop in production. But Tua missed 4 games in 2022, and Tyreek Hill was still able to get to his 1,700 yards and still had 7 touchdowns. He was still putting up numbers and still having production even when Tua was out a few years ago. So there was a little bit of a dip in production from the receiver himself, and it wasn't just the quarterback that was the issue. Not only was it the quarterback throwing to him, but it did seem like there were a lot more drops from Tyreek Hill this season. He had a few bad ones versus the 49ers. He had one that could have been a touchdown. He definitely did not play his best football this season, and it really looked like he was struggling after coming into the season as arguably one of the best receivers in the NFL. Now, you could argue this was, a Tyreek Hill issue, a quarterback issue. You could say it's a scheme or a coaching issue. Whatever it is, it was happening. It was a problem, and the team as a whole would miss out on the playoffs in 2024, and I'd have to say a lot of it has to do with obviously losing your starting quarterback for 6 games who you paid this offseason, and of course the lackluster production of Tyreek Hill, who is supposed to be one of the best receivers in the NFL, supposed to be a guy who can still be a good, reliable security blanket when you do have a backup quarterback in. His lack of production also is a huge reason why the Dolphins missed the playoffs. And in the final game of the season versus the New York Jets, it appeared that Tyreek Hill refused to go in near the end of the game. Dolphins head coach Mike McDaniel today or yesterday, I'm not really too sure, did call out Tyreek Hill saying, I was informed that he was unavailable. Right before I drive, I was not informed that it was a new injury. There was guys on the field that were competing. To me, this is a shot at Tyreek Hill saying that he quit on the team and that he didn't want to go in because they were losing and they weren't going to make the playoffs or something like that.
I was not informed that it was a new injury, and I think at that point in time, my focus was on the players, and I didn't take the time to go try to figure out more into that. Just there was guys on the field that were competing, and we were trying to win a game, so my focus was.
Something's not right here. Maybe there's a beef between the coaching or the front office and Tyreek Hill, that's been brewing throughout the whole season. I don't know. It feels like something's off. Even obviously he requested a trade. Something is off, but the relationship maybe between the head coach and Tyreek Hill and the general manager isn't the best. That's what Mike McDaniel had to say about Tyreek Hill's absence at the end of the game on Sunday in the season final. And then post-game, Tyreek Hill was being interviewed, and he essentially said that he wants out and that he's done with the Dolphins. This was the main quote right here, but basically he said, "I'm opening the door. I'm out, bro. It was great playing here, but at the end of the day, I got to do what's best for my career. I'm too much of a competitor to be just out there." And I'm assuming he's just saying he doesn't want to be out there, not competing for playoffs or championships. I don't think the Dolphins have won a playoff game since they traded for Tyreek Hill. I'm sure, he's frustrated. He came from a team that won a Super Bowl, and now they've won back-to-back Super Bowls without him. Like, that's got to be a little humbling for him. Because let's not forget that Tyreek Hill, I believe he had a deal on the table to sign an extension with the Kansas City Chiefs. And then I believe it was the Devontae Adams trade that happened, and then he got a huge contract, and then he wanted more money. Kansas City didn't want to pay him, so then he requested a trade to the Dolphins. He essentially chose money over championships. So he's in this situation right now because of his own doing. He could have been part of this back-to-back Super Bowl winning Chiefs, possibly three-peating this year, but instead, is missing out on the playoffs, hasn't won a postseason game since he was traded, and now he's requesting a trade out because he's not winning. He chose money over winning. This is kind of his own bad. And he even tweeted some stuff out after the game saying, "Love Dolphin Nation, blessing, you'll open doors for the Hill family, forever nothing but love and respect." And then up here, I don't know what this is supposed to indicate, but he tweeted out a smiley face, like maybe he talked and they're gonna end up trading him, who knows. And then he made this his profile picture, which is the iconic Antonio Brown leaving the field, peace out. But somebody photoshopped Tyreek Hill's face and head onto it. It's pretty crazy where this thing's going. But I think it's pretty clear that he wants out, and the Dolphins are going to have a tough decision to make. I'm not too sure how much of Tyreek Hill wanting to be traded has to do with the Dolphins retaining Mike McDaniel as the head coach and retaining general manager Chris Greer going into 2025. But like I said, those guys will have a tough decision to make when it comes to Tyreek Hill. Do they try to negotiate with him, trying to figure it out, try to make something work to keep him in Miami? Do they trade him? Can they even trade him? Would it be better for them to cut him to save money on the contract? And obviously they're going to want to trade him if they do move on so they can get something in return. But does the contract allow you to trade him? Does he have a no trade clause? There's a lot of factors that come into this. And for the Dolphins, they're a team that, the general manager and the head coach are on the hot seat. And, maybe they want to keep Tyreek Hill, who over the last 3 years has been one of the best receivers and players in the NFL. Maybe this is just a bad season. But if they're on the hot seat and they still feel like Tyreek Hill is a good player who can help them win, I think they want to keep him. But there's a lot of discussions that these guys are going to have when it comes to Tyreek Hill. Now, CBS Sports put out an article kind of going over the contract stuff vaguely. Tyreek Hill just restructured his contract with Miami this season, so a trade would require some financial gymnastics. I'm assuming a restructure of some sorts, maybe a pay cut. He takes more guaranteed money now, and then he has less of a cap hit or something like that. And then the article continues saying, but the Dolphins would avoid a $51.89 million payout to Hill in 2026 if they found a viable suitor, and considering Hill is just a year removed from logging a career-high 1,800 receiving yards, that doesn't seem implausible. So obviously, I think a team and multiple teams around the NFL would be willing to trade for Tyreek Hill. I don't think he's a bad player. I still think he could be productive. But I definitely don't think the Dolphins are going to get the same kind of haul that they had to send to the Kansas City Chiefs to get him. When they traded for Tyreek Hill, they sent the Chiefs a 2022 first-round pick, a 2022 second-round pick, a 2022 fourth, a 2023 fourth, and a 2023 sixth-round pick. I'm going to assume maybe he's in the second-round range with the fifth-round pick or something like that. This is definitely not realistic for Tyreek Hill. Maybe it is though, but he's also now 30 years old. He's owed a lot of money. Teams are going to have to give up a lot of assets to get him, and now whoever's trading for him, if they don't make the playoffs, now they have a guy who's going to want to be traded from them. There's a lot of stuff to consider when it comes to Tyreek Hill in a possible trade. Now, some teams that could maybe trade for him, I'd love to see the Ravens make a trade for him, possibly the Chargers, Jacksonville, the Commanders, maybe the Falcons, just some possible teams who could be in that mix for a Tyreek Hill trade. We won't see a trade like soon. I mean, soon-ish. March 12th is when a possible trade can be done for Tyreek Hill. I'm sure they can maybe get deals done beforehand, but it won't be official until Wednesday, March 12th, 2025 at 4 p.m. Eastern is when the league's new year will officially begin. While trades can technically be agreed upon in the offseason, no transactions will be made official until that date. So the Dolphins could maybe have a plan to trade him to a certain team and have an unofficial agreement, but it won't be official until March 12th, the new league year. It'll be interesting to see what happens to Tyreek Hill and where he will end up in 2025 and what the Miami Dolphins decide to do regarding his future. But the offseason has begun. It already started, and it's starting off hot with this trade request from one of the biggest names in the league. I appreciate you if you made it this far. Subscribe for more NFL content, up-to-date news. Have a good one. I'll catch you next time. Peace.